The message came on a cold Tuesday morning. Commander Kang Tae-ho was drinking his third cup of coffee when his tablet lit up with orders from the Galactic Council. He read the message twice because he could not believe what it said. His new assignment was to oversee the scrapping of an old ship called the Everlasting Dawn. Tae-ho had heard stories about the Dawn. Every human child grew up hearing tales about the legendary vessel that carried refugees through impossible space. But most people thought those stories were just that. Stories. Fairy tales told to make humans feel special in a galaxy filled with older and more powerful species. He packed his bag and took a transport to Station Omega 12. The station sat at the edge of human territory, a forgotten place where old things went to die. When Tae-ho arrived, he found his crew waiting for him. There were only two of them. Lieutenant Yuna was young, maybe 25 years old. She had short black hair and tired eyes. She was an engineer, one of the best in her class, and she was clearly unhappy about this assignment. "Sir," she said, not hiding her frustration, "I graduated top of my program. I should be working on new ships, not watching old ones get cut into pieces." Tae-ho understood her feelings. This was not a glorious mission. This was cleanup duty. The other crew member was Sergeant Day. He was older than Tae-ho, with gray hair and a face full of wrinkles. Unlike Yuna, Day seemed almost excited. His eyes kept looking toward the far end of the station, where a massive hangar door stood closed. "My grandfather served on that ship," Day said quietly. "He used to tell me stories when I was a boy. I never thought I would see her with my own eyes." Tae-ho nodded. He did not share Day's excitement or Yuna's anger. He just wanted to do his job and move on to the next assignment. Ships got old. Ships got scrapped. That was how things worked. A station worker led them through empty corridors. The lights flickered above them. This section of the station had not been properly maintained in years. Dust covered everything. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. Finally, they reached the hangar. The worker pressed a button, and the massive door began to open. It moved slowly. Groaning with age, light spilled into the darkness beyond, and there she was. The Everlasting Dawn was enormous. She filled the entire hangar, stretching from one wall to the other. Her hull was dark gray, covered in patches of different metals. Some sections looked ancient, others looked newer. The ship had been repaired so many times that she looked like a quilt made of steel. Tae-ho felt something strange in his chest. He had seen many ships in his career. Warships, cargo haulers, luxury cruisers. But he had never seen anything like this. The Dawn did not look beautiful. She looked worn and tired and old. But there was something about her. Something that made it hard to look away. "She's real," Day whispered. His voice was shaking. "She's actually real." Even Yuna had stopped complaining. She stared at the ship with wide eyes. Whatever she had expected, this was not it. They boarded through an old airlock. The inside of the ship was dark. Tae-ho turned on his flashlight and moved forward. The corridors were narrow. The walls were covered in scratches and dents. He ran his hand along the metal and felt the history beneath his fingers. Then a voice spoke. "Welcome aboard the Everlasting Dawn." Tae-ho spun around, reaching for his sidearm. But there was no one there. The voice had come from the walls themselves. "Do not be afraid," the voice continued. It was soft and feminine, with a warmth that felt almost human. "I am Mother. I am the ship's artificial intelligence. I have been waiting." Yuna stepped forward, her engineer's curiosity replacing her fear. "You're still active? After all these years?" "I have never stopped," Mother replied. "I remember everything, every voyage, every passenger, every soul who walked these corridors. I have been alone for 63 years, but I have not forgotten." Tae-ho felt a chill run down his spine. He had worked with ship AIs before. They were useful tools, nothing more. But Mother sounded different. She sounded alive. Before he could respond, a new voice interrupted. It was harsh and clicking, like insects rubbing their legs together. "Commander Tae-ho, I am Threll, representative of the Galactic Council. Teho turned to see an alien walking toward them. Threll was tall and thin, with 4 arms and a head that looked like a praying mantis. His compound eyes reflected the flashlight beam in 100 different directions. "I am here to ensure the scrapping proceeds on schedule," Threll continued. "The Council has decided. This ship is obsolete. It takes up valuable space. It serves no purpose." Day's hands clenched into fists. "No purpose? This ship saved thousands of lives." Threll made a sound that might have been laughter. "Humans and their stories. Every species has tales of ancient glory. That does not make them true. This is a ship. Metal and wires. Nothing more. And tomorrow, we begin cutting it apart." He walked away without waiting for a response. His footsteps clicked on the metal floor until he disappeared around a corner. That night, Teho could not sleep. He wandered the dark corridors of the dawn, thinking about his orders. A job was a job. He had scrapped ships before. Why did this one feel different? He found himself in a small storage room. Old boxes were stacked against the walls. Teho opened one and found ancient uniforms, faded with age. He opened another and found children's drawings, preserved in plastic. Pictures of stars and planets, and a ship flying through fire. Then he noticed something strange. One section of the wall looked different from the rest. Newer somehow. He pressed against it, and a hidden panel slid open. Inside was a small compartment. And inside that compartment was a book. A real paper book. Ancient and fragile. Teho picked it up carefully. The cover said, "Captain's Log. Park Jiho." He began to read. The book told a different story than the one in official histories. Captain Jiho wrote about the burning passage, a route through a collapsing nebula that connected 2 galaxies. Modern science said no ship could survive that crossing. The radiation alone would kill everyone aboard. But the Dawn had survived. Not once, 7 times. Jiho wrote about the refugees. 12,000 people from a war that the galaxy had erased from its memory. They had nowhere to go. No one would take them. So the Dawn carried them through space that should have been impossible. The captain's final entry was short. "We made it. They are safe. I can rest now." Teho closed the book. His hands were trembling. He thought about Threll's words, metal and wires, nothing more. He looked at the children's drawings. He looked at the old uniforms. He listened to the quiet hum of Mother, still alive after all these years. This was not just a ship, and he was not sure he could let them destroy her. Word spread faster than Teho expected. He did not know how it happened. Maybe someone at the station talked. Maybe a message leaked through the network. But within 3 days, people started arriving. They came on small transport ships and cargo haulers. They came alone and in groups. Some were old, walking with canes and moving slowly. Others were young, barely old enough to travel on their own. But they all had the same look in their eyes. They had come to see the dawn. Teho stood at the docking bay, watching them arrive. He did not know what to do. His orders said to prepare the ship for scrapping. They did not say anything about handling visitors. "Who are all these people?" Yuna asked. She stood beside him, confusion on her face. Day walked up to them, carrying a tablet. He had been talking to the arrivals, writing down their names and stories. "They are the descendants," he said. "Children and grandchildren of the refugees. People whose families the dawn saved." An old woman approached them. She moved slowly, supported by a younger man who might have been her grandson. Her hair was completely white, and her face was a map of wrinkles, but her eyes were sharp and clear. "I am Sujin," she said. "I was on this ship. I was 5 years old when we crossed the burning passage." Teho felt his breath catch in his throat. A survivor. A living witness to the stories he had read in Captain Jiho's log. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "the council has ordered this ship to be scrapped. I'm not sure you should be here." Sujin smiled. It was a sad smile, full of old pain and older memories. "Young man, I have been waiting 60 years to return to this ship. I will not leave until I have said goodbye. Threll appeared from a side corridor. His compound eyes focused on the crowd of humans gathering in the docking bay. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. These people are not authorized to be here. Commander Taeho, remove them immediately. Taeho looked at Threll. Then he looked at Sujin. The old woman met his gaze without fear. She had crossed through impossible space when she was a child. She was not afraid of an alien bureaucrat. They are family of the original crew, Taeho said slowly. They have a right to pay their respects before the scrapping begins. Threll's mandibles clicked in anger. You delay the inevitable. The council will not tolerate this waste of time. He turned and stalked away. Muttering in his native language, Taeho led Sujin and the others onto the ship. Mother's lights guided them through the corridors. The old woman moved slowly, touching the walls as she walked. Tears ran down her wrinkled cheeks. I remember this corridor, she said softly. My mother carried me through here. I was crying because I was scared. She sang to me. The whole crew sang to us children. They wanted to drown out the sound of the ship screaming. Yuna walked beside them, recording everything on her tablet. Her cynicism from before had disappeared. She looked like a student again, eager to learn. The ship screamed? She asked. The burning passage put pressure on the hull that no ship was designed to handle, Sujin explained. The metal groaned and shrieked. It sounded like a living thing in pain. But the dawn held together. Captain Jiho kept her flying. They reached the bridge. It was small compared to modern ships. Old consoles lined the walls, their screens dark and dusty. In the center was the captain's chair. Sujin stopped in front of it, her hand reaching out but not quite touching. He died here, she said. Captain Jiho. The radiation burned through the shielding. It was killing him slowly. But he would not let go of the controls. He said he would rest when we were safe. Not before. Day stepped forward. My grandfather told me about him. He said Captain Jiho was not a perfect man. He got angry sometimes. He made mistakes, but when it mattered, he was willing to give everything. Yuna had been scanning the bridge with her engineering tools. She looked up with confusion on her face. Commander, I don't understand what I'm seeing. Taeho walked over to her. What do you mean? The structural integrity of this ship. It doesn't make sense. She showed him the readings on her tablet. Modern military vessels have an average rating of about 85. Some of the best ships reach 90. This ship. She's at 94. That's impossible, Taeho said. She's 400 years old. I know. Yuna ran more scans, shaking her head. But look at the repairs. Layer after layer of them. Each generation of crew didn't just fix what was broken. They made it stronger. They reinforced weak points. They added support where it wasn't needed. It's like every person who served on this ship was building for the future, not just maintaining the present. NW. On time, Mother's voice came from the speakers. Lieutenant Yuna is correct. Over the centuries, 2,847 different crew members contributed to my structure. They gave me their skill, their time, and sometimes their lives. I am not the ship that left Earth 400 years ago. I am what they made me. Sujin nodded. We understood something important. A ship is not just metal. A ship is everyone who ever served on her. Their love becomes the hull. Their sacrifice becomes the engine. Their hope becomes the navigation. Taeho thought about Threll's words. Metal and wires. Nothing more. The alien could not understand. How could he? His species lived for thousands of years. They did not need to pass things down from generation to generation. They did not need to leave pieces of themselves behind. But humans were different. Humans died. And because they died, they learned to make things that would last beyond them. Not just machines. Legacies. Day had been exploring the far end of the bridge. He called out suddenly, "Commander, you need to see this." Tejo walked over. Day was shining his light on a section of the wall. Names were carved into the metal. Thousands of names, covering every available surface. They overlapped each other, growing smaller as space ran out. "Everyone who served on the Dawn," Mother explained. "From the first crew to the last. They wanted to leave a mark. They wanted to be remembered." Day's flashlight found a name near the bottom. "Park Dae-ho," he read. "My grandfather." His voice cracked. "He was here. He left his name, so we would know he was real." "R," he read. "He left his name so we would know he was real." Yuna continued her scans. She found something else. A sealed data core in the ship's lower levels. When she accessed it, the information made her gasp. "Commander," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "this ship is carrying more than memories. She has the complete genetic records, cultural archives, and final messages of 17 human colonies that no longer exist." Tejo felt his stomach drop. "What do you mean, no longer exist?" "Wars, plagues, disasters. These colonies were erased from history. But before they died, they sent everything to the Dawn. Their DNA, their art, their music, their last words to a universe that forgot them." Yuna looked at him with wide eyes. "If we scrap this ship, we destroy the only proof that those people ever existed." Mother spoke softly. "I am the last keeper of the lost. 17 million voices live inside me. They have no one else to speak for them." Tejo sat down in Captain Jiho's chair. It was old and worn, but it held his weight. He looked around the bridge, at the carved names and the dark consoles, and the old woman who had survived impossible odds. He had his orders. The council had decided. But some things were more important than orders. "Mother," he said slowly, "I'm going to need your help. We need to find a way to save this ship." "Commander," the AI replied, and he could hear something like hope in her voice. "I have been waiting 60 years for someone to say those words." Threll moved faster than Tejo expected. Within 24 hours, the alien had escalated the matter to a full galactic tribunal. The council was not happy about the delays. They wanted the Dawn gone, and they wanted it done now. The summons arrived on Tejo's tablet. He was ordered to appear before the tribunal in 3 days. He would have to explain why the scrapping had not begun. He would have to argue for the ship's preservation. "This is bad," Yuna said, reading over his shoulder. "The tribunal hasn't ruled in favor of humans in the last 50 cases. They think we're emotional and irrational." "We are emotional," Day replied. "That's the point." Tejo did not sleep for the next 3 days. He gathered evidence. He studied the ship's logs. He interviewed survivors and descendants. He learned everything he could about the Dawn's history, trying to build a case that aliens might understand. But how do you explain memory to a species that lives forever? How do you explain legacy to beings who never die? The tribunal was held on a massive space station at the center of the galaxy. Tejo arrived with Yuna, Day, and Elder Sujin. The old woman had insisted on coming, even though the journey was hard on her body. "I was there at the beginning," she said. "I should be there at the end." The tribunal chamber was enormous. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in tiered rows, their strange bodies filling seats of every size and shape. Some were massive creatures, 20 feet tall, others were tiny, barely visible. The air itself seemed thick with power and judgment. Threll stood at one end of the chamber. His compound eyes found Tejo immediately. The alien looked pleased. He thought he had already won. At the center of the chamber sat the High Arbiter. His name was Veth, and he was ancient beyond measure. His body was crystalline, light refracting through his form like a living prism. He had seen civilizations rise and fall, He had judged thousands of cases over millions of years. His decision would be final. "Let us begin," Veth said. His voice echoed through the chamber. "The matter before us is simple. The vessel known as the Everlasting Dawn occupies space that could be better used. The Galactic Council has ordered its destruction. The human delegation requests preservation. We will hear both arguments." Threll spoke first. He walked to the center of the chamber, his forearms moving as he talked. "Honored Tribunal, this case is a waste of our time. Every species in this galaxy has old ships. The Varkans have vessels from before the second expansion. The Mrilth have carriers that predate the formation of the Council itself. None of them ask for special treatment. None of them demand that their ancient junk be preserved at the galaxy's expense." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Teho's heart sank. "Humans are a young species," Threll continued. "They are ruled by their emotions. They attach meaning to objects that have no meaning. This ship is metal and circuits. It has served its purpose. Sentiment does not change that fact." He turned to face Teho directly. "The commander himself was sent to scrap this vessel. He has failed in his duty because of irrational attachment. This is exactly why humans cannot be trusted with serious matters." Veth nodded slowly. "And what does the human delegation say in response?" Teho stepped forward. His legs felt weak. He was a soldier, not a politician. He had no training for this. But he thought about the names carved into the walls. He thought about 17 million voices, with no one else to speak for them. And he began to talk. "The Dawn is not just a ship," he said. "She is a record, a memorial, a promise. 400 years ago, when our species was still learning to survive in space, this vessel carried 12,000 refugees through a region that should have killed them all. Not once, 7 times. Every scientist said it was impossible. But it happened." An alien in the front row made a dismissive sound. "Stories. Every species has stories." "You're right," Teho said. "Every species has stories. But humans are different. We die. Our lives are short compared to most of you. 70, 80 years if we're lucky. That means we don't have time to see everything ourselves. We have to trust what came before. We have to believe that our ancestors were real, that they mattered, that they left something worth protecting." He pulled out his tablet and projected an image. It showed the wall of names inside the Dawn. "These are the people who served on this ship. Some of them died in combat. Some of them died of old age. Some of them died with their hands fused to the controls because they would not let go until the passengers were safe. If we destroy this ship, we destroy the only proof they ever existed." "Proof for whom?" Threll interrupted. "Your species will continue. Your civilization will survive. Why does one ship matter? Because it's not just one ship." Teho's voice grew stronger. "The Dawn carries the genetic records and cultural archives of 17 human colonies that no longer exist. Worlds that were destroyed by war, disease, and disaster. The people who lived there are gone. Their children are gone. Their grandchildren are gone. But before they died, they sent everything to this ship. Their art, their music, their last messages to a universe that was about to forget them." The chamber went quiet. Even Threll had stopped clicking his mandibles. "If we scrap the Dawn," Teho continued, "we don't just destroy a ship. We destroy 17 million people. Not their bodies. Their memory. The proof that they lived, and loved, and dreamed, and died. We make it as if they never existed at all." Veth leaned forward. "This is an interesting argument. But the Council's concern is practical, not philosophical. The ship occupies valuable space. It serves no current function. Why should the galaxy bear this burden?" Teho hesitated. He did not have a good answer. The ship was old. It could not fight. It could not carry cargo. By every practical measure, it was useless. Then Elder Sujin stepped forward. She was small and fragile, dwarfed by the alien giants around her. But her voice was steady. "May I speak?" Veth studied her with ancient eyes. You are? I am Sujin. I am 90 years old. When I was 5, I crossed the burning passage on the everlasting dawn. I am one of the last living witnesses to what that ship did. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the aliens who had been whispering to each other stopped to listen. I do not understand your logic, Sujin said. I do not understand your arguments about practicality and space and resources. But I can tell you what I remember. She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were shining with tears. I remember being scared. The ship was shaking so hard that I thought we would all die. I could hear the hull screaming. Metal does not normally scream, but this metal did, and I remember the crew. Young people, most of them, barely adults. They were scared too. I could see it in their eyes. She paused, gathering her strength, but they sang. While the ship was dying around them, they sang to us. Old songs from Earth. Lullabies that their mothers had sung to them. They wanted us children to hear music instead of fear. They wanted our last memory to be hope, not horror. Tears were now running freely down her wrinkled cheeks. Captain Park Ji-ho stayed at the controls until the end. The radiation was killing him. His hands were burned. His eyes were bleeding. But he would not leave his chair. He said, "I will rest when you are safe." Those were his last words. He died 30 seconds after we cleared the passage. Sujin looked directly at Veth. I do not know how to argue law or logic. But I know what that ship means. She is not metal. She is the love of everyone who gave their lives for strangers they would never meet. If you destroy her, you are not scrapping junk. You are saying that love does not matter. You are saying that sacrifice has no value. You are saying that the dead should be forgotten. The chamber was absolutely silent. Veth sat motionless for a long moment. Then he spoke. The tribunal will vote. The votes were cast. Representatives pressed buttons on their consoles. Numbers appeared on a massive screen. Tae-ho watched, barely breathing. The result was a tie. Veth nodded slowly. The deciding vote is mine. He looked at Tae-ho with eyes that had seen eternity. One question. Commander, if I say no, what will you do? Tae-ho did not hesitate. We will remember anyway. You can destroy the ship, but you cannot destroy what she means. In 1,000 years, when your council is dust, humans will still tell their children about the dawn. We do not forget. We cannot forget. It is who we are. Veth was silent for a very long time. Then, slowly, he cast his vote. The ship was spared. The victory at the tribunal came with a condition. The Dawn had to leave council space within 1 standard year. If she remained at Station Omega 1-2, she would be scrapped regardless of the vote. The message was clear. The council would tolerate human sentiment, but they would not host it. Tae-ho read the orders 3 times. Then he called Yuna and Dae to his quarters. We have 12 months, he said. We need to fly the Dawn home to Earth. Yuna laughed. Then she realized he was serious. Commander, that ship hasn't moved under her own power in 60 years. Her engines are museum pieces. Her navigation systems are older than my grandmother. The journey to Earth would take 5 months through safe space, and there's no guarantee any of her systems will hold together for 5 hours. Then we fix her. Dae nodded slowly. My grandfather always said the Dawn was a stubborn old lady. She just needs someone to believe in her. Yuna threw up her hands. This is insane. We're 3 people. We can't restore a ship this size with 3 people. As if answering her objection, Tae-ho's tablet lit up with incoming messages. Then again. Within an hour, it had received over 1,000 communications. Word of the tribunal had spread. Humans across the galaxy had watched the proceedings. They had seen Elder Sujin testify. They had heard Tae-ho's speech about memory and legacy. And now they were responding. Engineers offered their skills. Pilots offered their time. Veterans of the old Space Corps offered to come out of retirement. Young people who had never seen the Dawn in person but had grown up hearing stories about her volunteered to help. Within a week, over 500 people had arrived at Station Omega 1-2. Yuna stared at the crowd filling the docking bay. Where are we going to put all these people? On the ship, Tejo said. Where else? The restoration began. Yuna took command of the engineering teams. She divided the volunteers into groups and assigned each group a section of the ship. They worked around the clock, sleeping in shifts, eating meals from portable food stations. The dawn's corridors, silent for decades, echoed with voices and footsteps, and the sound of tools. The work was harder than anyone expected. 60 years of neglect had taken a toll. Rust had spread through sections that should have been sealed. Circuits had corroded. Pipes had cracked. But for every problem they also found something remarkable. Look at this, Yuna said one day, calling Tejo to the engine room. She pointed at the main reactor core. It was ancient. One of the first fusion systems ever built for deep space travel. By every measure, it should have failed centuries ago. This core was designed to last 50 years, Yuna explained. It's been running for 400. Someone in the past over-engineered it by a factor of 8. They built it to outlast their grandchildren's grandchildren. Tejo touched the worn metal. It was warm, still generating heat, still alive. They knew, he said. They knew the ship would need to last longer than they would. Similar discoveries appeared throughout the dawn. Backup systems that no modern ship would bother with. Triple redundancies where single redundancies would have been enough. Hidden compartments filled with spare parts, labeled and organized as if someone had been planning for this day centuries ago. Day found a maintenance log from 300 years in the past. The entry was simple. Replaced secondary coolant line. Added extra reinforcement. May the next crew find this in good condition. The previous crews had left gifts for the future. They had worked not for themselves, but for people they would never meet. And now, 3 centuries later, those gifts were saving the ship. Alien news networks began covering the restoration. At first, they mocked the effort. Betting pools opened on how many days before the dawn fell apart. A popular commentator called it humanity's most elaborate suicide. The council sent observers to document what they assumed would be a spectacular failure, but days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months, and the dawn did not fail. Yuna got the secondary engines running first. The rumble of power shook the entire station. Volunteers cheered. The observers looked uncomfortable. 2 months later, the primary engines came online. The dawn's lights blazed to life throughout the ship, brighter than they had been in decades. Mother's voice echoed through every corridor. Power at 70% and rising. Navigation systems initializing. Life support fully operational. There was joy in her voice. I can feel myself waking up. 3 months into the restoration, more volunteers arrived. Then more. The number exceeded 1,000. Then 2,000. People came from every human colony. From every station. From every ship. Some were skilled, some were not. But all of them wanted to be part of the story. Elder Sujin watched from the observation deck as crews swarmed over the hull, replacing plates and sealing cracks. She had not left the ship since the tribunal. Her health was failing, but her spirit was strong. They remind me of the original crew, she told Tejo. Young people doing impossible things because they don't know they're impossible. By the 5th month, the dawn was ready. Her engines hummed with power. Her hull gleamed with fresh repairs. Her systems were running better than they had in centuries. The volunteers stood in the cargo bay, waiting for orders. Tejo addressed them over the ship's intercom. The everlasting dawn has been given 1 year to leave council space. We have used 5 months for repairs. We have 7 months remaining. The journey to Earth should take 5 months through safe space. He paused. The crowd waited. Unfortunately, safe space is no longer available. Yuna displayed a star chart on the cargo bay's main screen. A large section was marked in red. New hostilities have broken out in this sector. The Council has closed all transit routes through the area. Any ship entering will be considered hostile and destroyed. Murmurs of concern rippled through the crowd. There is one alternative, Tejo continued. We can go around the conflict zone. That would add 2 months to our journey. We would arrive at Earth 3 weeks after the Council's deadline. The Dawn would be scrapped on arrival. Silence. Day stepped forward. What's the other option? Tejo looked at him. Then he looked at the star chart. His finger traced a path through a region marked with warning symbols. There is one route that bypasses the conflict entirely. It would get us to Earth with 2 months to spare. The crowd stared at the chart. The route led directly through a swirling mass of orange and red. The burning passage, someone whispered. Yuna shook her head. Commander, the passage is more unstable now than it was 400 years ago. Modern navigation AIs calculate a survival probability of less than 4%. I know. This isn't the same as what Captain Jiho did. The conditions are worse. We have less margin for error. I know. An old woman's voice cut through the debate. Elder Sujin had made her way to the cargo bay, supported by 2 volunteers. The Dawn crossed the passage 7 times. Her builders designed her to endure the impossible. If any ship can make this journey, it is her. Tejo addressed the crowd again. I am not ordering anyone to come. This is a choice. We can take the safe route and lose the ship. Or we can take the dangerous route and maybe lose our lives. No one will think less of you if you stay behind. He waited. No one moved. Then, slowly, an old veteran in the back of the crowd raised his hand. My father served on this ship. His name is on the wall. I'm not leaving. Another hand went up. Then another. Then 100 more. Mother's voice filled the cargo bay. All hands, prepare for departure. The everlasting dawn sets sail for the burning passage. May the stars guide us home. The engines roared. The station's docking clamps released. And for the first time in 60 years, the Dawn moved under her own power. Through the viewport, Tejo watched Station Omega 1-2 shrink into the distance. Ahead of them, the stars waited. And beyond the stars, the fire. The journey to the burning passage took 3 weeks. The Dawn traveled through alien territories where humans were barely tolerated. At every station, crowds gathered to watch the legendary ship pass by. Some laughed and pointed. Others stared in silence. They had never seen a vessel carry so much history. Inside the ship, the crew prepared for what was coming. Yuna ran endless simulations, trying to find the safest path through the passage. Every simulation ended the same way. Destruction. The computers could not find a route that worked. The navigation AI gives us a 3.7% chance of survival, she reported to Tejo. And that's being generous. Tejo nodded. He had expected as much. What about Mother? Can she calculate a better route? Mother's voice answered from the speakers. I crossed the passage 7 times, Commander. I did not survive because of calculations. I survived because my crew refused to give up. On the 22nd day, they reached the edge of the passage. The crew gathered on the observation deck to see it. No one spoke. The burning passage stretched across space like a wound in reality. Collapsed stars twisted and churned inside a nebula of fire. Radiation pulsed in waves that could be seen with the naked eye. Gravity wells spiraled in patterns that defied physics. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Tejo stood at the front of the crowd. This is your last chance to leave, he said. We're within shuttle range of 3 neutral stations. Anyone who wants to turn back, speak now. Silence. He looked at the faces around him, engineers and soldiers and veterans and dreamers, young people who had never faced death and old people who had faced it many times. None of them moved. Then we go forward, Tejo said. He made his way to the bridge. Yuna and Day followed. Elder Sujin was already there, seated in a chair that had been brought specially for her. She was too frail to walk on her own now, but she had insisted on being present. I want to see what Captain Jiho saw, she had said. I was a child the last time. I only remember pieces. Now I want to see it all. Tejo sat in the captain's chair. His hands gripped the armrests. Ahead of them, the fire waited. Mother, he said. The dawn entered the burning passage. Everything went wrong immediately. The radiation hit them like a hammer. Warning lights flashed across every console. The hull groaned under pressure that should have crushed them instantly. Yuna shouted readings that made no sense. The temperature inside the ship spiked 20 degrees in 30 seconds. Shield integrity at 60%, Mother reported. Dropping fast. Taeho gripped the controls. The ship bucked and twisted beneath him. It felt like riding a wild animal through a hurricane. His knuckles went white. Navigation is offline, Yuna shouted. I can't see where we're going. I can, Mother said. I remember the way. Stay on my course, Commander. Icon said. I remember the way. Stay on my course, Commander. A path appeared on the main screen. It wound through the chaos like a thread through a maze. Impossible turns. Suicidal drops. But it was their only hope. Taeho followed the path. The ship shook so violently that crew members were thrown to the floor. Something exploded in the lower decks. Fires broke out in 3 different sections. The lights flickered and died, replaced by emergency red glow. Hull breach on Deck 7, Mother reported. Ceiling compartments. How many people were in that section? Day demanded. 42. They are safe. The breach is contained. They pushed deeper into the passage. The radiation grew worse. Even through the shields, Taeho could feel it pressing against his skin like needles of fire. His vision blurred. His hands trembled. Elder Sujin began to hum. It was a quiet sound, barely audible over the chaos. But others heard it. One by one, voices joined her. An old song from Earth, a lullaby that parents had sung to children for thousands of years. The crew was singing, just like they had 400 years ago. The bridge crew joined in. Yuna's voice was shaky but determined. Day sang with tears on his cheeks. Even Mother added her voice. A soft harmony underneath the human sounds. They sang as the ship screamed around them. Halfway through the passage, the main engine failed. The ship lurched. The lights went out completely. For a terrible moment, they drifted in darkness, surrounded by fire. Engine room, report, Taeho shouted. Static. Then, a voice. Commander, the main reactor core has shut down. We're trying to restart it, but we need parts we don't have. Day was already running for the door. I'm on my way. The engine room was hell. Flames licked the walls. The temperature was unbearable. Day found a team of engineers fighting to reach the reactor core. The main access hatch was blocked by debris. We can't get through, one of the engineers shouted. And even if we could, we don't have the replacement parts for the fuel injector. Day looked around. He saw the old reactor core, still glowing faintly. And he remembered something from Captain Jiho's logs. When the Dawn made her original crossings, they had repaired the engines with whatever they could find. Scrap metal, personal belongings, anything that would work. Give me your tools, Day ordered. All of them. And empty your pockets. Belt buckles, jewelry, anything made of metal. The engineers looked confused, but they obeyed. Day gathered the items and studied the reactor. Then he began to work. It took 20 minutes, his hands burned, his lungs filled with smoke. But piece by piece, he rebuilt the fuel injector using parts that were never meant for this purpose. A belt buckle became a connector, a wedding ring became a seal, a pocket knife became a coupling. Try it now, he called. The reactor hummed. Then roared. Power flooded back through the ship. On the bridge, the lights came back on. The engines surged. Taeho felt the Dawn leap forward, stronger than before. Engine power at 92%, Mother reported. We're back on course. They pushed through the final stretch of the passage. The chaos grew worse, then suddenly stopped. They burst out of the fire like a swimmer breaking the surface of a lake. Behind them, the burning passage collapsed. The unstable region folded in on itself, sealing shut forever. No ship would ever make that crossing again. The Dawn had traveled a road that no longer existed. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then cheers erupted throughout the ship. People hugged each other. People cried. People laughed until they could not breathe. Taeho slumped in the captain's chair. His body ached, his hands were shaking. But he was smiling. They were 3 days from Earth when the first escort ships arrived. Taeho did not understand at first. Ships kept appearing on the sensors. Human vessels. Alien vessels. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. They surrounded the Dawn like an honor guard. "Commander," Mother said, her voice filled with wonder. "They have come to escort us home." Word of the crossing had spread across the galaxy. What began as a scrapping order had become the most watched event in a century. Billions of beings were watching as the Dawn approached her final destination. Earth appeared on the view screen. Blue and green and white. More beautiful than Taeho had ever seen it. The planet that had built this ship 400 years ago was welcoming her home. Cheers echoed through every corridor. Elder Sujin wept openly, her ancient face transformed by joy. Day stood at attention, saluting the planet of his ancestors. Yuna just stared, speechless for the first time since Taeho had met her. Taeho opened a channel to the Galactic Council. "This is Commander Kang Taeho of the Everlasting Dawn. We have completed our final voyage. The ship will rest here, on the world that built her. She carried our people through fire, and we carried her home." He paused, then added words that had been growing in his heart for months. "This is what humans do. We endure, and we never forget." The Dawn was placed in permanent memorial orbit around Earth. From the planet's surface, she was visible at night as a new star in the sky. Children pointed at her and asked their parents to tell the story again. Yuna was promoted to lead the preservation team. She spent the rest of her career caring for the ship, making sure she would last another 400 years. Day retired and wrote a book about the journey. It became required reading in schools across human space. His grandfather's name was finally remembered. Elder Sujin passed away peacefully 1 year later. She died, smiling. Having seen her childhood ship come home at last, Mother remained active. She still answered calls from anyone who reached out. She told stories to children who called her frequency. She kept the memories of the lost colonies alive, speaking for 17 million voices that had no one else. And across the galaxy, something unexpected happened. Aliens who had mocked the Dawn began looking at their own forgotten ships. They began wondering about their own discarded histories. Some even started asking questions they had never asked before. What stories had they let die? What legacies had they allowed to fade? The Dawn had not just carried human refugees through fire. She had reminded an entire galaxy that some things are worth fighting for. That memory matters. That the past deserves a future. In her memorial orbit, the everlasting Dawn circled Earth endlessly. Her lights blazed bright against the darkness of space. Her engines were silent now, her journeys complete, but her story was just beginning. It would be told for 1,000 years, and then 1,000 more.